not just for the sake of diversifying, but diversification matters here so that you start to begin to protect at least a portion of that $1 million. I recently reached $1 million across my investments. What's the next step for me? That's great, Raymond. $1 million is a great milestone. It's a mental hurdle that you can really get behind and get excited about. But there is nothing magical really about that number. And I think we've made it that in the marketing side of the financial services industry. Yeah. Hey, if you have $1 million, do this. Here are the 7 steps you must make. It's nothing inherent. If you go in and read those things, everybody really should be doing them.
Everybody needs to do them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the $1 million is not magical, but I do think it means that it is definitely time, if you haven't already, to get a plan together on paper, on purpose.
Absolutely. I think one of the keys that I would want to be sure that you understand is that it does not mean that you're financially independent. You might be. We've seen people with $1 million who were financially independent. We've also seen people with $300,000 who were financially independent. It all depends on what your obligations are and what your income resources are. So lots of things to consider there. I just think Scott and I would both encourage you to not feel like you have arrived and this is it. Maybe you have, but it's important to understand what your situation is. So how old are you? When do you plan to retire? Those are going to be factors that come into play in determining what your financial independence really looks like. And we don't really know that without a plan. What are you going to need in terms of retirement income, and how much retirement income are you going to want on top of covering your basic needs?
Yeah, and I think on a risk tolerance level, from an investment perspective, it is certainly now to the point where you have a big market correction and you're going to feel it if you are all in equity, right? A 10% drop in the market is going to look a lot different on $1 million than it is on $100,000. So diversification, not just for the sake of diversifying, but diversification matters here so that you start to begin to protect at least a portion of that $1 million. How much gets allocated to a diverse strategy or something from an asset class perspective that's different than stocks, that is determined also through the planning process. Because if you think about our bucketing strategy here, Janet, if you have $1 million at 45, there's going to be a different strategy in place investment-wise than if you have $1 million at 55 or 65,
Sure.
Because it depends on the time horizon when you're going to need to utilize a portion of your assets as income. And so that goes back to what you've already said. When are you going to retire? How old are you? That's the thing that needs to be determined to answer Raymond's question about what's the next step.
I think another key thing, Raymond, for you to consider is tax diversification. We don't really know. You say you have this across your investments. We don't know if that's all pre-tax, if it's some combination of pre- and post-tax. If there's an opportunity maybe for some Roth conversions, and I always want to underscore this, don't go overboard on Roth conversions because you have to be able to pay those taxes out of pocket on whatever amount you're converting. So be careful about that, but it is something that we would want to check the box on. We've talked about it. We've determined together whether this is a good move in your situation or not. So definitely something to look at. And then also, do you have anything in non-qualified investments? So it doesn't qualify for any special tax treatment whatsoever. So we would need to understand that. And then, are you maxed out in what you're doing as far as your contributions towards your retirement? Again, that kind of depends on your age. If you're over 50, you can contribute more than normal, and that might allow you to be able to accelerate your already planned retirement timeline.
The final piece to that, as we begin to run out of time here, is the estate planning concept there too. Raymond, if you've reached $1 million, you need to start thinking about where is it going to go, what's going to happen to it after I'm gone, and estate planning can help you do that. At Gen Wealth, we can help you do that. We help clients access and guide them through the estate planning process as part of the Gen Wealth Ready to Retire process. So